Here is a question from Paul Moore. Some of my favorite recordings are of live shows, and I have 2 questions about that. From a musician's perspective, what's the difference in doing a live recording and a studio recording? Will Octave ever do any live recordings? Well, I'll answer your questions in the order you posed them. From a musician's perspective, what's the difference? Live, studio. There's a lot of difference. What do I touch on first? When you are out at a live show, typically there are people in the audience. Sometimes there's not. I've certainly played to empty bars before, and yeah, that happens. But when you're at a live show and there is an audience, there's sort of this energetic feedback loop that happens. You know, the musicians put out their energy and make this music, and the crowd responds, and they clap and they whistle or whatever, hoot and holler, and that energy gets sent back to the musicians, and the musicians take it in and they use that energy to do their thing on the next song and, you know, rip some sweet solos or whatever. So there's an energetic feedback loop with the audience that's there. When you are recording in the studio, it's just you. You know, maybe there are people in the tracking room or the control room. Maybe there are other people in the tracking room with you if you're playing with other people at the same time, which happens a lot. But there's not that energetic feedback loop, and you kind of have to imagine it. You know, you for a good performance, you want to put yourself in the vibe of like playing music for someone, because there's something special that happens there. You know, that give and take kind of energetic process. But you do kind of have to put yourself in that mindset if you can, and really try to play to somebody. That's one big difference. I think another big difference, which could be good, could be bad, depends on how you respond to it. When you're in the studio, because nobody's watching, and you can try as many times as you want, you know, especially if you're not playing with other musicians and you're just doing your part. You don't have to nail it the first time, so there's not so much pressure on you. When you're in a live setting and you know you're being recorded, you really want to get it right. You know, and you can't go back and do it again. I guess you could. You know, a lot of live recordings, they'll have two shows that get recorded, and then you can do comps and that sort of thing, but not always. So depending on the person, depending on the musician and their makeup and how they respond to the world, live recording in the rush of it could be a really good thing, and they take their skill level even higher because they're pushing themselves to do something great because it's being recorded for all time. Or they could totally crash and burn because they're so nervous. It's sort of the fight or flight response that happens with any performance. But from a musician's perspective, again, those are the differences that come to mind right now. I mean, for the engineer, I mean, that's different too. You want to make sure that in the live setting, you get your mic placements right. You're not going to have hours and hours to sound check and make sure that your tones sound good on the drums. You kind of have to get it up there and go. Whereas in the studio, you can like keep hitting the snare, you know, get the tone exactly how you want it. So there is a bit of a different sort of pressure there on the engineer as well. Will Octave ever do any live recordings? Yeah, we will. No, I'll tell you about them. We actually have recorded two live shows at this point. 3. We recorded 3 live shows. One of them I don't think we're going to use, which is fine. You live and learn. One of them was recorded like over a year ago. And we've had so many projects in the queue that it's just now coming up on its turn to get mixed. So I don't want to tell you who it is yet because it's not done and like ready to go. So I don't want to jinx it, I guess. But we did a live recording last fall, which I've talked about on some other videos. Paul and Terry and I went to Nocturne in Denver and recorded Gabriel Mervine's quartet. They did a Parisian jazz thing, accordion, trumpet, bass, drums, and it was such a cool show. It was such a cool show. The music was a pleasure to listen to, and to call that working just felt silly. But it was work. You load it in and you set it up and you tear it all down and you take it back, and by the time you're done, it's midnight, and I'm no spring chicken anymore. But that's one to look for. I've had the Final Mix CD here at my house that I've been playing on my own system quite a bit. It's really good. It's kind of addicting to listen to. So Gabriel Mervine, engineered by Paul McGowan, the one and only. So look for that. Hopefully that kind of covered your two questions. Thank you for writing in. If anybody else has questions, drop them in the comments. You know how YouTube works. Or go to the psaudio.com website, sign up for the Hi-Fi family, and we can start up some email chats as well. Yes, thank you, Paul.